Welcome back to the Success Catalyst. My name is Nina Robert and I'm your host. Today we have an extraordinary guest, Amy Gibson, known as the voice of hair loss. Amy is a leading expert in alopecia and cancer hair loss and a personal hair loss consultant for women in the US. She's also an international wig and accessory designer, author, alopecia spokesperson, Emmy-nominated soap opera actress, keynote speaker, and media commentator. 23 years ago, Amy founded createdhair.com and created hair designs in Beverly Hills, offering women safe, comfortable solutions for medical hair loss. Diagnosed with alopecia at 13 while starring on CBS's Love of Life, Amy kept her condition secret through a 20-year TV and film career before dedicating herself to helping others. Amy's story and advocacy have gathered numerous media appearances, and she has won awards for her work in the cancer community. We're thrilled to have here with us today Amy Gibson. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Welcome. How are you doing? Thank you
I'm
for
doing
having
great.
me on.
And I'm so excited to have you here. And I want to know everything about your experience and the challenges that I'm sure you faced with this career and this mission that you're going to help people with hair loss. And I think this is something very, very important, and I think not spoken about enough in our society, in our community. So tell us more about your journey into hair loss advocacy and how your personal experience with alopecia influenced your career and led you to become a leading expert in this field.
Well, that's about 9 hours. To condense this, I was starring on soaps for many, many years. And when I was younger, I was around 13 years old and I was on Love of Life. And I was in the hair and makeup room, and every day they'd comb your hair, they brush it through. And the hairstylist would always play pranks with me. And so he was put my hair over and he flips it up, I'm doing this. And he goes, wow, you have a bald spot the size of the palm of your hand. And I thought he was kidding. I said, that's right, Nick. Okay. He goes, no, 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 seriously.
Mm.
And he showed it to me. And I was freaked out, but at the same time, I was so intrigued because, like, when do you see any of your scalp like that? And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And wow, it's so smooth, like a baby's butt. Wow.
Mm.
But I must have watched a documentary on leprosy because I was always watching these crazy documentaries as a kid. And the first thought I had after this intrigue was, oh my God, my arm's going to fall off. So I went into obviously a spin, an emotional spin. And I ended up going to a famous dermatologist there that my aunt, who was a famous singer, took me to. And he said, there really is no cure, but we have a Band-Aid. We're going to shoot these cortisone shots right into your scalp and it will get the little hair back, but it won't stop more hair from falling out. So for many, many years, I would breathe in the numbing spray because it would get me high enough, just amount of time not to hear the sound of Rice Krispies of the needle. And so I got used to it. And then the minute I'd have like an underground little pimple, I'd know, oh, the hair's going to go there. And so I was constantly keeping up with it because I was on a show. I couldn't tell anybody. So to condense this, I did that for many, many, many years through many, many different shows. And I really got very good at lying. Okay. I got really good at lying. I remember my agent said to me, oh my God, I think it was either Clairol or one of the VO5 or whatever commercials really wants you. But I was so worried because of my alopecia and I was going to be a pro golfer. I said, oh God, you know what? I use a very proprietary product and I kind of signed some paperwork and I can't really do anything else for shampoos. She goes, really? Did I do that deal for you? I said, no, no, I did on the side before I met you. She goes, really? Then there was a golf tour and the celebrity golf tournaments. And I was so worried that the wind would blow and somebody would see my bald spot. So I would make up more excuses and I would say things like, oh my God, I slammed my thumb in the door and I got no long game. I can't do this. So I would constantly be having to think ways to get out of this.
Mm.
And then going from one show to the next, before I was going from Young the Restless to General Hospital, I had been out of work for a couple of years. They'd written the part in for me for a undercover detective with 7 different dialects and 7 different, well, actually it was an undercover detective. And what happened was, I realized I had a lot of spots. So I went in for treatment. And at that time, they didn't regulate it. And they gave me so much that I walked out and I was like seeing triple. So I realized, oh my God, I can't do any more treatment. And I stopped the treatment and all my hair fell out, like
Oh.
within 3 weeks, which was about 5 weeks before starting production. And I literally had no idea what I was going to do. So I had this mini nervous breakdown. And then I thought, I really need this job. I need the money. I need this job. Like, I've got to figure this out.
Mm.
So I decided after 4 days of like vomiting, throwing up, freaking out, that I would turn this character into one with 7 different dialects and 7 different looks to get her man. And somehow, I'm going to get the studio do the wigs without anybody knowing. So I meet the producer at the only place I knew I wouldn't lose it emotionally, which was at the Beverly Hills Hotel Cafe, very crowded.
Mhm.
I don't know how he didn't know I was wearing a wig, girl. I'm telling you, I had a hat on. The wig was awful. I didn't know what I was buying. I bought some synthetic wig to get by.
Oh my God.
And I said, listen, I have this great idea. And I pitched him the idea. And he said, my God, what made you think of that? And I had to tell him, this is what's going on with me. He said, oh my God, we can't let anybody know. You're going to be ousted from the business like a bald freak. He said, we've got to have everybody sign NDAs. What do you think you need in wigs? I said, well, I did the budget. I need $100,000 for the wigs in the budget. And so he goes, wow, what a great idea. How'd you think of this? And I told him my whole thing with, sorry, I have a hair here, of alopecia. And he asked me an interesting question. He said, is it going to be catchy? Is it catchy? Because, you have a love scene coming up and we have to make sure that it's not catchy. And I'd never had anybody ask me that question, but funny enough, I did have a date ask me that later on in life, but I didn't know how to answer that because I didn't know enough about what I had yet.
Mm.
And then I researched it and everything was okay. So much of what I do in my life has to do with the challenges that I've come across where either I can't find a product that helps me or a psychological technique that helps me. And I've had to kind of find my way myself. I never ended up thinking I'd go into this business. I got ill and I was given a 50% chance of ever walking again. I was bedridden for a year. And I had left the business at that time and was writing and producing. And I literally was asking God to take me. I mean, I'm not one to do overdosing or drugs or cutting or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I was in so much pain by people having to pick me up and bathe me and put me back into bed. And I really got really got the lesson of control and giving it up. And I kept praying and asking, what am I supposed to do with this? I can't even look at my phone long. I can't look at a computer. I can't. And I started getting these phone calls out of nowhere from
Mhm.
women from my support groups wanting to know about wigs and all. And I'm thinking, what? And I mean, it was one after another, yet the right side of my life,
Mhm.
project falling apart. I kept losing work. And I thought, one day it hit me and I said, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh
This
my.
is not what you must want me to do. And I really heard clearly that if you do my work, I'll get you to walk again.
Mm.
And I thought, no, I don't want to do this work. But I kept getting these calls. I would charge $15 a call. And long story short, I was able to walk again. And when I was able to walk again, I would go into chemo centers and hair loss groups and sell wigs out of the trunk of my car. And I did that for 2 years. But during the time that I was ill, I started losing because I'd only lost hair on top. I still had my lashes and my body hair and my
Yeah.
eyebrow. And I saw a little bald spot. So I said, oh my God, I got to design a line of eyebrows. I mean, God forbid I lose this brow. And I had someone come in, a very famous designer from Europe, who I gave my last dollar to design these brows. And I never put them on the market because I wasn't ready. And there was so much that had to be done. And so when I started getting well and walking, I thought, I'm going to put those, this is before anybody had brows on the market. I'm going to put those brows on Home Shopping, but I need a glue. So a stylist turned me on to a gentleman up in Northern California, who to this day I haven't met. And I would speak to him over the phone. He was telling me about face glue and what to use. And he said, you keep on telling me you have an idea for a swim wig. I said, I do. For years, I've had to make my own design off of synthetic pieces. And I really feel that this design would work for like thousands of women. He said, well, the largest company in the world, Adirans, is up in Vegas at a convention. You should go hang with them. I said, hang with them? No, I don't hang. If they want to see this design, they can sign paperwork and fly me up there, or they can fly down here. And 2 weeks after that, the president of their American company came into town, and he had me try on, and he showed me this line of wigs they were thinking about doing that wasn't an active wig line. And I went into the bathroom and I came out and I said, you're going to fail miserably. I said, this is a horrible line. You need to do A, B, C, and D. You need to cut here. You need to sew there. And he goes, well, why don't you show me your design? I said, well, did you bring the paperwork? He said, well, no. I said, well, then you don't get my design. I said, when you're ready to show, So long story short, a few weeks later, I flew in, showed him the design, and they put up millions of dollars for the line. And that is what put me on the map as a designer, which I'm most grateful for. But in between all that, I had to deal with the personal journey. And still there was nobody guiding me. So throughout my whole career, and now trying to do this business, while I was still very emotional, was incredibly challenging. I still cry with every client. I mean, I take off my wig with every client. You can't, when I have a cancer client who comes in and says to me, you don't know how I feel, I said, excuse me, I do know how you feel. But at least this is an area where you can be in control of something while everything else is spinning out of control with cancer or with alopecia. Let's get control. So I've made it my mission to really come up with techniques, not only wigs and wig products that work, but really try to take women from a place of feeling out of control on an emotional roller coaster, an absolute victim, to getting in control and feeling like a victor and being able to live their life normally. That includes intimacy and sex. And how do you deal in the workspace? You know how many clients of mine sit under a light, right? And the boss will come over them, and talking to them, and they're worried that this is going to show, that if their part is not natural, it will show, right? It's going to, something looks off. So it's even taking women into the workforce. And so, balancing TV with alopecia was an unbelievable feat. And when I wrote Sex, Wigs, and Whispers, okay, this was in the works for 10 years because I kept on adding to stuff. There was more things that I had to work out, and I go, wait a minute, I haven't finished. Well, in the middle of writing this book, I was almost finished. And I had a horrible thing happen with a family member who unfortunately had taken a lot of money from me after I was very generous my whole life with her. And I got so angry. It was a Wednesday night that I was shaking from so much anger when I got this phone call from the bookkeepers. And I was angry for days. And Saturday morning, my husband looks at me in bed and he goes, honey, where are your eyelashes and eyebrows? I went, what? That level, I had gone from alopecia, which are the spots, to alopecia totalis, which is when I lost only the top of the hair, and I started wearing wigs, to now losing the frame.
Oh my God.
The eyebrows and eyelashes. And I have to tell you, that was as if it started all over again. I swear to God, it was like all of a sudden I really was on this alopecia journey that I had handled. I was wearing wigs, no problem, putting them on, forgot about it. But when you lose all of this and the body hair and everything, you got to start from a different place, because I've always felt that women who have any level of hair loss, whether it be from alopecia or cancer, have to reach deeper to find out what makes them tick, right?
Yeah.
So they're interesting. But when you have cancer, in my book, I always say that women with cancer are my heroes. Why? Because not only do they have to make the serious choice to do whatever they have to do to stay here, right? For their loved ones, for their mate, for their employers, whatever. and for themselves. But then
Mhm.
they've got to lose, then they have to walk around with a smile after they've lost the one thing that represents for most people their crowning glory, their sexuality, their sensuality. And guess what? They still got to walk around with a smile so nobody feels fearful and they don't
Mhm.
alienate anybody. And I've always thought that the inner journey of a cancer client, there's the journey of the treatment, which on its own is an unbelievable journey. And then there's the inner journey of making it through this to the other side and staying strong for you and for everybody around you. So the hair loss journey, there are over 60 million women in the US, and that's a very old number. I would say there's close to 80 million women with the problems with the vaccine hair loss and COVID hair loss and everything else, that are experiencing the hair loss when nothing else kind of is wrong with them now.
Mhm.
And people want to go, well, there's got to be something wrong, right? I mean, well, you had COVID. And there's a big problem with hair loss with COVID. There's a big problem with the jab with hair loss.
Mhm.
And so, and that you can't do anything about. It's already done. So what do you do with this thing? Well, you better get proactive, because as long as you're proactive, when you change your reality of something, you change your when you change your perspective,
Mhm.
there's no other way than changing your reality. So instead of looking at this like, oh my God, you go, you know what? This is horrible. You can get emotional. I'm certainly emotional about it. And then you have to stop and go, I don't let my clients sit in my chair emotionally for more than 5-10 minutes, because it doesn't do any good for them or myself. We need to move you from that place
Mhm.
into this place.
Yep.
And as long as you're really emotional and as long as you're feeling like a victim, no matter what I put on you, no matter how great it is, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
So my mission is to really first, let's get you in touch emotionally and get you strong so
Mhm.
that this doesn't matter as much. I mean, I'm a hair girl. I don't go out without my hair. That's just me. And I've always said, my God, for women who can go out bald, I'll do it for press reasons, like in media or when I was on Dr. Phil or other things. If I feel the need to share it with a client that's authentic, I
Mhm.
will do so. But not to walk around and shop and to the movies. I go to dinner. It's never been something that I do. I have a partner named Georgia Van Kylenberg, who's very well known in the alopecia arena. And she's a true humanitarian with kids. And I remember when she lost all her hair, she rocked it. And I was
Mhm.
like, how do you do that? Right. It was amazing to me. So I think women that are going through this hair loss journey have to really find what's right for them. And there's a lot of terrific drugs that have come out recently, but it's important to know the side effects of them. And without getting too specific in this show, I can certainly give it to you to put on your website, some of the solutions that are out there. But I don't love putting foreign things in my body personally. But for somebody who really wants to try something to get their hair back, I'm a total believer in trying anything there is. You know, there's a wonderful natural product called Monat, Monat,
Mhm.
that helped a girlfriend of mine. So that's why I know it works, because it came from a personal friend of mine that turned me on to the product. And I really love that product. I love a product called Hair Max that is the LED lights. It's like a band that can
Okay.
promote hair growth that have been FDA approved. And then there are a tremendous amount of things that have come out recently for rheumatoid arthritis, where the side effect is hair loss. But I think the inner journey is what a woman has to get in touch with, not just the outer journey. So created hair designs, I started that. It's now going to be 25 years in January.
Okay.
And it was one company, then we changed it to another name, and now it's Created Hair Designs. The website is createdhair.com. So when I started that company, I didn't know what I was doing. I had one ventilator to sew hair. I would get caps and I would get hair and she would sew them. And other than that, I'd had synthetic pieces. And slowly I started learning from other great wig makers that I would go to do my hair that shared their secrets. I had a wonderful teacher named Del Roberts, um, who really taught me the business. Even my ventilator had been in the business for 40 years, and she taught me all the tips and tricks. And then the grandfather that started, the man who started Wigs, Wilshire Wigs, would teach me. And so little by little, I started learning not only through my own, but other people who really taught me. But I would have these challenges along the way. Um, I needed a bag at the gym to carry my things. And I didn't want anybody to see them. And it came out of a very emotional thing that had happened when I just lost my hair. I was working out in these synthetic wigs. They'd be really wet. And I would take a plastic bag to put the wet one in. And I'd have my dry wig in another plastic bag. And I would carry all these, like the tape and the witch hazel to clean my scalp and all this stuff separately. And I would go in, and after about 6 weeks, I kind of had it down. I'd go into a bathroom stall. I would put everything down on the bench, and I'd be cleaning everything, and then I'd put my wig tape on it, and then I'd go and sit and put my makeup on like every other woman and feel normal, right?
Mm.
But this one time there was no stall, but there was a handicap stall with a shower curtain. I thought, I can do this in like 2 minutes. So nobody had seen me bald. My head was over the bench. I was trying to get my tape out and my accessories, and a woman in a wheelchair happened to pull across the shower curtain, and she went, "You're not crippled. You have no right. You're not handicapped." And she started cursing, and like the place was so crowded and everybody saw me bald, and I was so freaked out. And I started grabbing all the accessories and they kept falling. And I
Mm.
just grabbed them. I put a wig on. I'm sure it was backwards. And I sat in my car, and I remember crying for like an hour. And I thought, one day I'm going to create a product that will hold a bag that will hold all the accessories and your wig together that looks like a handbag. And I'm going to do that and come out with that. And that's how the rescue bag was born. And then I couldn't find a way to keep my wigs on. So I thought, you know what? I really need to come up with some kind of band. So I started with the nylon band, and I would sew polyurethane onto it. And I just, as a wig wearer, you try other things, even naturally, just to make sure that something is going to be more comfortable on this journey. So finally, I created a band called Wig Secure. It took me many years. And I realized it had to have a piece of silicone down the
Okay.
middle so that it would stay on my head. I have a lot of runners who use this in exercise. And then the wig fits over and it really holds where I didn't need tape anymore. I thought, oh my God, this factory finally got it right. But then I had a lot of itching in
Mm.
these wigs. And I would put, I don't know, cotton and lace underneath and tissue, and it would always be lumpy. And finally, after 6 years, it took me 6 years to create scalp cushion. So scalp cushion has the curvature of the natural scalp.
Mhm.
And when you wear this under a wig, it really takes away the itchies and it's not at all lumpy. So I started coming up with all these things and many other things coming out. But I think when a woman's going through the hair loss, it's really important to find those things that make your journey easier. Like I always say when you're dating, and
Mhm.
if you're intimate and you're not ready to tell them, people say, well, there's a woman out there that says it's a 3-date rule. If you don't tell your partner within 3 days of 3 dates, then you're a
Mhm.
liar. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that your hair loss is a blessing. And when you're ready to let someone in, that's on your timetable, not his or anybody else's. And so you have to learn, if you're not ready, then get sex wigs and whispers. Pardon me, it's Love and Life with Hair Loss. And I give you all these like techniques so you can learn how to be intimate without an issue, right? So I talk about a thrasher wig. When I would be intimate with somebody, I would have another wig looking just like it. And so I would go into the bathroom right before the major gig and I
Mhm.
would switch wigs out. And by
Okay.
that time, the lights were dim, right?
Yeah.
And I'd mess up my beautiful wig, but in the morning I'd get up and I'd put the one that he realized from the night before. And they were very close. That when People magazine covered me, I had a guy that I had seen for a couple of years named Barry, such a narcissist. Anyway, he calls me up after seeing the article. This was so typical. And he goes, "Hi, Aim. Congratulations. I love that you're helping all these women. And, listen, can I tell you how I feel?" And he would always say that. I said, "Yeah, Barry, what's up?" He said, "Well, I feel really betrayed." I went, "What? What do you mean betrayed?" He said, "Well, we went out for 2 years and you never told me." I said, "Really?" "Well, Barry, When would you realize it's not all about you? And second of all, maybe I didn't feel safe enough
Yeah.
to tell, you know? And oh, Barry, can you do me a favor? He goes, sure. I said, remember this tone. And I hung up. And I could not believe it. But, people are very insensitive or unaware of woman who goes through and what we go through when we lose this. There are times I wake up, and I've done this for so many years with women. I take them from point A to point B, and I speak about this all over the world. And you know what? I cried last week. My
Hmm.
wig was right. I was going to an event, and I said, I just want my goddamn hair back. I want my eyebrows back. I want my eyelashes back. I mean, I get it, God. I'm doing the work you want me to do, but you know what? Maybe you can like give me some of this back, because I I'm really tired of this. And my husband and I have this running joke. So I wake up and I'm like a blank canvas, no eyebrows, no lashes, and you really have no differentiation. And
Contrast.
and the very first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I put some brows on because I have to walk the dogs, and I don't want anybody to see me without my brows because it looks strange. So for me, not for anybody, I have friends who walk around without brows. It's not a problem. And again, I give them kudos, but I just have a problem with it. And so there's a lot of work involved to make this,
Hmm.
and you have to embrace it. There are these stages. There's the anger, there's the grief. I mean, you're a coach, you understand. There's
Absolutely.
anger and there's grief. Whether you're a business coach or whatever, you don't get a job, there's the anger, there's the grief before you can clear that out and get another job.
Yeah.
It's the same thing on a little bit of a deeper level with the hair loss. And so we have to let ourselves go through that, not
Yeah.
sit in it, but go through that and get to the other side to then find the answer and then gravitate and embrace what we need to do to move on, or you'll never move on. I have a friend of mine who is in her late 40s. She came to me as a client, has become a friend, and she lives in LA. And she came to me recently, and she's still as broken
Hmm.
about this hair. She cannot get beyond it. Do you know that her husband of 37 years has never seen her without her hair? She goes to sleep with her wig every night, and when he goes to work, she takes it off.
Oh my
And she
God.
said, and I said, but why? Lisa, I don't understand. She
Mm.
said, I can't. I said, are you afraid he won't love you? He knows you wear a wig. He knows. She goes, he doesn't. I said, well, where do you keep your wig? She said, I have a special hiding place he doesn't know about. I said, I really give you grace. The fact that you could do this, if that's what you need to do for you, I give you blessings on that. I just, couldn't do this. So with created hair, I try to get out there. I try to get the word out. So I appreciate it today. But I love Cancer Connect community support centers, because not Cancer Connect, Cancer Support Community Centers, because
Mhm.
they really have an outreach, not only physically in support centers you can walk into across the country, but also their webinars that Judy Williams does. It is very impactful and very informative. The National Alopecia Areata Foundation tries to put a lot of stuff out there. There are people, there's so much more on Instagram, there's so much more on YouTube. My YouTube channel, Created Hair by Amy Gibson. I took $100,000 loan, which I'm still paying off. But I was in meditation, and I heard a couple of years ago, you need to do this YouTube channel. People are calling you constantly for the same things. They need to have a place to go, but not everywhere, all over the place on the internet, in one home. So Georgia was sweet. She goes, yeah, you have to do this. And my partner, Kathleen Leonard, who's one of the top celebrity stylists in Los Angeles and Hollywood, and she's been my partner for 18 years. She's African American. She's incredible. There's no better wig colorist or wig stylist in the industry. And we did this together, and it's where people can really go to get information. I still want to do like 40 more, but I put stuff out on Instagram and I try to get it out there. But I think the inner question is so strong, which is, what do we do with this?
Mhm.
Where do we start? Well, you start with understanding that it's not God, and it's not a curse, and you're not going to die from it, and it's not catchy. Those are the four things, and that
I,
you can get to the other side. And then you start investigating the different things that are out there. We do premium European hair. I do some synthetics called cyber hair, which was my active swim wig, and
mhm,
also another one called the water wig. And so if you're exercising, they exist. These are all solutions.
mhm,
Wig Secure Crystal, the scalp cushion, the rescue bag that you carry your wig in, my book. Like, there are other things out there also, not just these. You need to do your homework, but there's definitely more information than ever before. I mean, I hope that kind of summed up what you asked me in a whole
it
in a
did
whole thing of, because
definitely.
there's just so much information.
I
Uh,
mean, I'm so impressed and so really humbled by what you've been doing to the world and to people
Thank
facing
you.
this kind of challenge. And I think it's not, as I was saying earlier, it's not spoken about enough. And I really, really appreciate you and appreciate your mission and your efforts to spread the word and to help so many people. And now I've learned about your YouTube channel. This is excellent because people would go to YouTube looking for such voice and such community and such
Right.
advice.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of all over those. So created hair by Amy Gibson. And people often misunderstand, but it's created hair by
Hmm.
Amy. You know, I had an interesting thing happen at gym the other day. I hadn't been there in 20, almost 30 years, the same gym where I had the event
Yeah.
happen.
Okay.
Right. And so I decided to go back because it's with new ownership for a while. And I go back, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to worry about walking around bald here, because years ago I did.
Hmm.
And here's what was so interesting. Nobody cared, because there's been so much out about hair loss now over the last 10 years and wigs, that nobody looked at me weird anymore.
Hmm.
You know,
Wow. I got goosebumps. Oh my God. Yeah, it's
oh,
true that people are gaining more awareness and that they becoming more aware and conscious
yeah,
that,
it's accepting also. Like, I was so
yeah,
surprised.
that too. Yeah.
I didn't get weird looks,
Yeah.
but I think that also had to do with the fact that I didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Your attitude changed in the meantime.
And
That
so people
changes a
sort of
lot.
already, I wonder if I had been this way years ago, but I don't think so. I think 25 years ago or 30 years ago, people, they looked at you and you must have cancer if you're bald. And
Mm,
this way, today it's not that. So that was such a relief, not only a relief, but it was so invigorating to be
yeah.
there
Mm,
in community with these women who really didn't care. I'm in the steam room,
yeah.
and one girl asked me, how do I feel? And I said, I'm great. I don't have cancer. I have alopecia. She goes, and her towel was wrapped. She goes, can I talk to you after this? So this girl took me aside. She's a vet. And from the stress of being in the army, she's had a lot of alopecia. And we had this talk, and she's coming in on Friday. And she goes, I don't think I would have talked about this if I didn't see you in this.
Wow.
And I go,
Oh my
shut
God.
up. Are you kidding me? I was going to just keep a towel wrapped around my head. She goes, no. She goes, I wouldn't have approached you at all. And kind of felt you didn't have cancer because you really look healthy. And I just didn't see that ashy kind of tone if
Mm,
somebody's going through chemo. I felt like, and because your head was so smooth, you didn't see the follicles or anything, that I felt like you just had hair loss.
mm.
So I thought, wow, what an interesting journey I'm on right now,
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
starting to accept this part of myself, right? It's still my journey, girl. I'm still, I mean, I got to tell you, I cannot make love with my husband bald. I love women who can, and
Hmm.
I know he loves hair. So you learn to work with things, right? You learn what people are comfortable with. There's some clients who I know I absolutely cannot take my wig off with.
Mm,
They're not they're not ready to see what's coming if they're a cancer client. And it's very important, because when they come in, and that's really a very strong affinity of mine, because I've lost a lot of family members to cancer,
mm,
um, is this is the reality. But people that are just diagnosed can only hear so much at a time. So you just have to take baby steps through the
mhm.
process and be easy on yourself with this. If you don't have it down right away, it's okay. You know, if it's my book or somebody else's, if it's my YouTube channel or somebody else's, start looking on Instagram. You'll see incredibly inspirational things on Instagram that are so much more informative, that make you feel like you're in community with these people. There are tons of Facebook groups now for the bald woman, and for people going through hair loss. So, I feel like that's what women need to take control. We
Hmm.
take control of our bodies. We
Yep.
work out. You take control of your nutrition. So take control of your inner being with this. Know that you're not alone, and know that this is something that is absolutely available, to overcome. That's how I feel.
Wow. I mean, there are so many aspects to what you do. There's a very impactful, I think, psychological work that you're doing with your clients. There's so much to learn about the self-image, the attitude, how to get to know yourself through this challenging experience and through this new way of living, how to identify your triggers, your fears, your discomforts, and how to deal with that, and how to really process all that and get through it and get through life with that challenge and learn so much about yourself in the process.
But it's not different. It's no different than the work that you do,
It's not
because
different at all. It's
I
not
mean, you
at
still need
all.
to take to get through somebody's blocks if you're going to get them successful again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, kudos to you, because I feel like every life coach or business coach has to be so in tune psychologically, knowing where somebody's blocks are and how to move them through it without coming up against, right? Easily moving to get to the other side. So I have great respect for people who do your work because of that. And people have no idea how hard it is to change and to
Absolutely.
let somebody work with them. I'm going to surrender to you, Nina. I'm going to surrender. And here are my blocks. And how do we get around that? And not everybody's good at it. Not everybody's a great coach. I've worked with many, and I failed with many because
Mhm.
either I wasn't ready or what their technique didn't work for me. And I'm still working at that. I still am trying to figure out ways to, I'm raising $25 million right now to give
Mhm.
away to women and children who can't afford them. I have this company that I started, and we're raising this money. And that is my next thing that I want to do, other than bring scalp cushion out to the African American market. And
Okay.
so it will be a little bit of a darker color. I have them in different sizes coming out, but I have other products that I'll be coming out with. But the nonprofit Healing Hair has been something I've wanted to do for 20 years.
Let me ask you about your book, Sex, Wigs, and Whispers. It has been a vital resource for many women. So, what motivated you to write it, and what do you hope readers would take away from it?
For me, it started out as a cathartic thing. I
Mhm.
was keeping kind of a diary.
Okay.
And then I looked at it and I had 10 years of my life in here. And I thought, God, not only is there funny stuff, like I wrote about how many lies I told on General Hospital so nobody would find out I was I was wearing all these different wigs, as I mentioned, for the character, but I had to
Mhm.
wear the same wig to and from work.
Okay.
That was my hair. So when somebody would come up and touch the wig, like one of the character wigs, I had to be careful not to jump. If
Hmm.
somebody said me hello or tapped me behind, I had to learn how to stay very normal. And
Okay.
when People Magazine covered me, they went to every single person I ever worked with in television and asked if they knew I wore wigs or had hair loss, and nobody ever knew. So I have all of that. And I felt like I remember looking at the diary and kind of going through it, going, oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh, wow, this would really help that client. I wish I had this out. And I started doing this.
Hmm.
But when I lost my brows, right? After I had been taking all that money, and I woke up on Saturday morning and I had no hair, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I was good at doing brows on other people, but kind of doing it for myself, I had never had to. And I couldn't do it. So it was a Saturday. I only had between 3 and 5 open. I was booked the rest of the day, and I was freaking out I remember taking my wig forward so that my bangs were like down to here so nobody would see my brows. And I went to Nordstrom's. And before I went in, I prayed to my mom. I said, Mom, I know you're looking down. I said, I need your help. I'm flipping out. I don't know what to do. You need to bring me to the right person here. You
Mhm.
need to guide me to the right person. But I walk into Nordstrom's and it was completely packed. I thought I must be an idiot walking here on a Saturday between 3 and 5, right? I must have looked really frustrated. And out of nowhere, this blonde girl named Kristen comes up to me, hands me a card and says, Hi, can I help you? I'm the brow specialist for Nordstrom's. I went, What?
Oh my God.
And I look up, I said, Mom, thank you, Mom. She trained me for 2 hours. She's in my book. And then I went back and she worked with me again.
Mhm.
And then I learned how to do it. And I learned from makeup artists after that and all these different techniques. And I got a bad tattoo done. So I had the rest of the bad one taken off recently. I will have them re-tattooed again as soon as this one heals up. Um, so I really felt that it was the time to put out the book. The book's been out, several years, but
Mhm.
it's one of the best sellers. And I realized, geez, I'm middle of writing a second book right now. That's more about cancer and cancer hair loss and the things you should know. So um, it's kind of controversial, and I think that it will make an impact. It still has to do with my work, but I felt like it was time, and it keeps on having an impact. It's amazing. I mean, women still, thank God, buy it. And, we don't make that much on the book. It's funny. I think I make like $2 a book or something by the time
Mhm.
printing is done. So it wasn't ever about making a lot of money with the book. I had never done one. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can put this out and share my diary with everybody, right? So then I stopped print. I said, you have to stop. Don't go to print. I've lost my brows. I dealt with that. And then you'll see it in there. I think it's called Bye Bye Brows. And
Okay.
that was an added chapter that we did when this happened. And again, it was about being proactive, right? I mean, that's what I try to put out. And so that's why the book, I think, has a real impact and it's not well edited, even though I paid like 3 people to edit it. I think I would like to put it out again, better edited and add some stuff to it. Um, I just think it's a manual. People call it their Bible, whatever. I just think that it's funny. It tells the crazy thing that's happened to me during dating. And then there's only 5 sexual positions. Everything is about intimacy.
Mhm.
So, it's not, at first I was much more graphic about things, and I went through a lot in the beginning of my journey that, my alopecia came from it being suppressed. My immune system was suppressed when I got staphylococcus as a young child, and then it came back at 13, and then I got alopecia right afterwards. I also think it was the stress of very serious molestation, sexual molestation I was dealing with from 7 to 16 that added to it as well, that I had to overcome, go through therapy with. And I don't really go through that in this book. I just said, this person walked into the bathroom. He didn't act like a father. And we left it at that. So
Mhm.
I think all of that added, so I think there's so much molestation that goes on with women in this country, be it brother, father, uncle, um, more than people realize. In addition to single women being in the workforce, or women in general having 2 jobs to make it
Mhm.
through, I think the stress is so much greater than it's ever been environmentally, in our water, in our air, in our food, that we have a lot of challenges to overcome this side effect of hair loss. And if you don't find the tips and tools, like what's in Sex, Wigs, and Whispers, if you don't go on the internet and you don't look on Instagram and you don't try to find those answers, you are going to be nothing but stuck, and you will not live your life normally. And there's no reason you should not make love, go dancing, work out, swim, do everything you need to do. All you need to do is learn a few things to
Yeah.
make it work. You learn how to work with your bra. We
Mhm.
all learn which bra to work with. Okay, the underwire hurts. Let's go to a different one. We all find ways. We find the makeup that works. We take the time. So you know what? Take the time to learn this. It's not such a horrible journey. You can learn it. You can absolutely. Createdhair.com is online. I give free consultations for 15 minutes. You can pay for an hour. I make myself available 3 times a week, 3 hours a day, sometimes more than that. So I'm available. It's just you have to want to do it. I can't force you to want to heal yourself and get yourself through this. I think we all have our journey, and you either decide to conquer it or you don't.
That's a very powerful message because I work a lot with clients and coaching, mentoring, all these things that we do with people. It's not just giving them the recipe and telling them exactly what to do. They have to do the work as well. They have to follow that advice. Having the best machine or the best accessory or the best next gadget will not solve the problem if you don't use it properly, if
I
you don't
totally
follow
agree.
the, yeah. So, to end with, I'm really grateful to having you here. I've learned so much about this subject, and I learned so much about you and many ways that you're helping people with. And I'm really, really grateful for you as a person and as an
Please,
entrepreneur and as a voice for all these people that really need much more visibility, much more messages to really go through and to keep this subject more in mind, because it's not obvious to see what's beyond that experience and to go through that challenge. And we have to really feel that we are in community, we are seen, we are heard, and there are solutions so that everyone could live the best life that they can with what we have. Now we have solutions, and you keep innovating and you keep creating new things and new ways to make people feel better and live their best lives. So thank you so much, Amy. And is there anything you want to end up with? Any advice, any last message you want to share?
I think that you said it in a nutshell, but hair loss is not a curse. I look at it as a blessing. You
Mhm.
could be anybody you want to be. You can change your color. You can change your style. You got to approach it in a funner way, right? In a sexy way, because just remember something. Wigs are no longer this travesty. Now
Mhm.
they're looked upon as an accessory like heels and lipstick. And if you look at it like that, you'll have so much more fun, and this won't be as traumatic because you would have found solutions that really fill your heart and get you and feel inspired and normal and wonderful and sexy.
Thank you, Amy, and we'll see you again in the next episode.
Bless you. Bye, honey.